toes, baby. You think a little too small. I got big goals, baby. Ain't where the money.
Over the past few years, we've seen a lot of large content creators turning to religion and converting typically to Christianity or Islam. But how genuine are these conversions, and are they a net positive or a net negative for these creators and their communities? Young Don Reborn is one of those creators who converted to Christianity, and in just a minute, I'm going to be watching and giving my assessment of his video, How I Became a Christian, which he put out a few weeks ago. And I'm not going to be playing it in its full extent. I feel like I'm being fair to the spirit of his story. But by all means, I'm going to link it in the description. Go watch the full video if you want to for full context. And also, before we get started, I just want to make it clear that while I definitely have strong criticisms and disagreements with some of the things that he says, I'm not here to attack him personally, his faith, or even Christianity in general. My goal is not to discourage people from having faith or being religious, but to address parts of religion that I find to be objectively harmful to humans, and to let those who might be interested know that they can have peace, purpose, and morals without religion, or without having to believe in a fantastical supernatural narrative.
Once upon a time, I was a fairly popular YouTuber. I amassed 2.4 million subscribers. I made animations telling funny stories about my life. I was getting millions of views on every video. I was making a lot of money by the time I was like 24 by just drawing dumb cartoons about my life. I went by the name Young Don the Sauce God, which, wow, pretty blasphemous, right? And like most young people today, it seems, I was my own God. I believed in the law of attraction. I thought religion was stupid. Jesus probably never existed, and if he did, he certainly didn't walk on water. I was a perpetual bachelor. I dated casually, never looking for anything serious. I was red pill. I drove sports cars. I lived in a nice apartment in LA. I smoked weed. I drank regularly. I was pro-abortion, and I didn't think being gay was that big of a deal. So in summary, I was wicked. And this is who I was for about 5 years, from 2017 to 2022. And every year was more wicked and worldly than the last.
So the first thing I want to mention here is that there's absolutely nothing wrong with anything he's talking about here. None of this stuff is wicked. As the fallen philosopher Kanye West once said, there's no sins as long as there's permission. And I think that being pro-LGBTQ plus is the morally correct position. I think that being pro-choice is the morally correct position. And the rest of the things he mentioned, I don't think should really hold moral weight for you as a person. You should never be made to feel guilt or shame in partaking in any of those things, or in choosing not to partake in those things. You know, when it comes to substances recreationally, if that's something that you like and you want to do, and you know, you feel like you have control over, and it's a positive thing in your life, there's nothing wrong with that. If it starts to become not a positive thing, or you don't really like it anymore, it's okay to stop. And when it comes to like casually sleeping around, nothing wrong with that either. Or choosing not to. If you don't want to do that, that's fine too. It's wise to be well educated on safe practices, and it's important to be ethical in your practices. So by that I mean making sure that you're being upfront and honest with people that you're interacting with your intentions, and making sure, of course, that enthusiastic consent is had by all parties involved. So let's go a little bit more.
I even remember in 2020, one of my friends telling me about someone we used to know in college who became super obsessed with Jesus and moved out to like a farm and went overseas on mission trips to like Africa. And I remember thinking it was one of the most ridiculous things in the world at that time. Because when I knew him, he was just one of the guys smoking weed, chasing chicks, you know, he was normal. My life was very simple without Jesus. I wasn't happy. I always felt like I wasn't famous enough or made enough money. I had no peace, but my life was simple because I was my own God, my own moral judge. And it could have stayed that way, but God clearly had other plans.
So here what I'm sensing up to this point is that he's just kind of been vibing through life. He hasn't given much thought to his worldview, to his beliefs, or what his purpose is. And even if you have a great life, this can make you feel empty and unfulfilled. And it is fertile ground for someone to be able to come in and use religion to explain why you feel that emptiness and why their particular set of beliefs are what can make you feel whole or fix your problem. So really at this point, I think he is primed to accept something that he feels could give him purpose and meaning in life. And honestly, that could be anything. And I think we'll see it almost came down to a coin flip as to what he chose in life.
You see, towards the end of this period of my life, God started changing things within my heart and mind and started moving people around in a way which I now see made my conversion to Christianity inevitable. The first thing he did was he changed my views on family. If you asked anyone how I felt about marriage, going all the way back to like 2015, you'd get the same answer. I am never getting married. I didn't even want kids, at least not before I was like 35 or something. But for some reason, what Kevin was saying about the importance of getting married just started making sense. Eventually, God put a young lady in my life, and though she wasn't a Christian, she had a lot of the characteristics of what I had learned to look for when looking for a wife in this day and age. She was beautiful. She was feminine, friendly. She could cook. She said she wanted a bunch of kids and was open to being a housewife and homeschooling any children. As far as I was concerned, that was like finding a needle in a haystack in this day and age. So we started dating seriously, and within like 6 months, she got pregnant with our first daughter. I proposed and started mentally preparing to have a family. This was the next major chess piece that God moved, because it occurred to me that I had no idea how to raise a family, how to manage a wife and kids and still be in charge and commanding respect while also being patient and loving. Also, along with me becoming more traditionally minded, I was also becoming more conservative, and so was quickly becoming anti-rainbow, and I didn't want my daughter to grow up and be a whore or a boy.
Okay, so for this part here, I have to say unequivocally that I have zero respect for this. Apart from the shaming and transphobia that he's exhibiting here, he's also expressing a deeply problematic view on parenting that many religions or conservative people have. They have this idea in their mind of who their children should be, and their goal is to mold them into that kind of person. Their idea of raising a good family revolves around having their children adopt their values and their faith. But we've seen time and time again that this method of raising children does not work well. I've seen it in the Christian communities that I grew up in, and we can see it in how many people are currently leaving the faith these days. Yet we're seeing this rise in new converts adopting these same parenting principles without really understanding how poorly it has been failing over the last several decades. And I think that's a big problem. My idea of raising a good family, and I think kind of the secular humanist idea of raising a good family, is raising humans who are healthy and comfortable with who they are, who value themselves for who they are, who value others for who they are, and who feel comfortable choosing for themselves what they want to believe or not believe when it comes to religion. And I think that the best way to do that is, instead of trying to mold children into who you think they should be, you should be helping, supporting, and loving them along as they grow into who they are. Realizing that they are their own person, they will grow into their own person, and helping them learn about life and navigating life along the way as they grow into that person. and to help them grow into the most healthy version of that person.
So I was like, what can I turn to so that I can raise a good family? And then it came to me. Religion. Wasn't a guarantee, right? But it was better than nothing. So my fiance and I talked about it. Neither of us were religious. Both of us grew up being exposed to some variation of Christianity. And so we agreed to become Christians and go to church. We thought about Islam for like 2 seconds, but I decided it would be less of a hassle to just go with Christianity. But what that should show you is where I was spiritually. This was a completely strategic, sterile, practical move. I was not a true believer. I did not believe in Jesus. I was just looking for a good culture to raise decent children.
So this is a trend that I've seen with a lot of first-generation Christians. They get married, they have kids, and they feel the need to seek out something that will give them control over the situation. As we talked about earlier, they have been coasting through life up until this point, and once they have the responsibility of a family, they either feel scared or ill-equipped for that role, and so they turn to religion to provide them structure and a roadmap for being a good husband and father. He even admits here that this was like really a strategic, sterile kind of flip of the coin choice. But for me, it doesn't seem like it really ever gets to anything beyond that.
Next thing you know, I'm in debates with some of the biggest faces on the internet about why abortion is murder and should be made illegal. I'm talking guys with millions of subscribers. Next thing I know, I'm getting death threats. People are saying just the most vile things about me. I went from never really getting any hate in my entire YouTube career to being like just getting mad hate all at once. And it just brought me to a place where I had to make a decision. Here I was getting hate because I'm standing up for values that I really took on because I saw myself as a Christian, but I could now see how unpopular this was going to make me in the eyes of my longtime fans and many of the popular people of the world that I had made connections with. And so I had to ask, was this Jesus stuff worth it? Was it worth me putting my status as an internet celebrity in jeopardy? Did I even really believe it? I remember it so clearly. It was nighttime. I had just finished responding to this popular YouTuber who had called me out for my crazy takes on Twitter. And I went and sat on my back patio with my Bible, and I was just talking to God, asking him to help me know what to do. I end up opening my Bible to the book of James, and I start reading. And then I hit chapter 1, verse 5, and it reads, "Now, if any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives to all generously and ungrudgingly, and it will be given to him. But let him ask in faith without doubting. For the doubter is like the surging sea, driven and tossed by the wind. That person should not expect to receive anything from the Lord, being double-minded and unstable in all his ways." And that hit me like a ton of bricks, because that's where I was, being torn between who I was and who I was starting to become. Someone who truly cared about God. And to be honest, at the time, my faith was like a little ember. You know, I still had my doubts, but I felt sure enough that I wanted to take a chance and step forward in faith. When I asked myself, do I really believe in Jesus, or is this just a costume that I was wearing? And I knew that I truly believed. And so the very next day is when I dropped this video right here. And that was officially the start of my Christian journey. Thank you for watching. Like the video, leave a comment, and thank you to everyone who supports my channel financially.
Now, I don't know young Don, but when I look at the content that he's put out about being a Christian, I don't see someone with deeply held personal beliefs. I see a man who fell down a pipeline. I see a man who already had developed homophobic, transphobic, and other problematic beliefs first, and then sought out a way to gain more control over his situation in life. And so I don't fault anyone for wanting more structure in life, but for me, the trade-off just isn't worth it in this scenario. It's not worth it to me to possibly damage my children's psyche by telling them that they were born inherently sinful and all that goes along with the doctrine of sin and holiness. It's not worth trying to force my children into a mold that they will almost certainly reject when they get older and resent me for. It's not worth it for me to possibly have an LGBTQ plus child feel the need to repress or suppress a fundamental part of their identity, which could do untold damage to them down the road, and again, ensure that they will resent me. None of that is worth the trade-off to gain more control over a situation in life and my family, and in an attempt to ensure that I raise quote-unquote good kids. Now, I don't have a problem with sharing your religion with your children. I think it's important that you do so. But to me, it should be done with respect to your children's self-determination. They should feel like they have the freedom to believe whatever they choose to believe without losing the love and the support of their parents. And a good way to do that is to teach them about what you believe in such a way that you're saying, like, this is what mommy and daddy believe. This is what a lot of other people believe. This is what other religions believe. What do you think about it? And have it more of a conversation versus indoctrinating them into this. And to me, wouldn't you want your children to choose your religion out of true belief versus like being born into that? To me, if they're going to stay Christian longer, it's going to have to be because it's something that they truly choose to believe. So, as I said in the beginning, my goal is not to discourage people from having faith or from being religious, but I do want people to think critically about what they believe. And having purpose, community, structure in life is incredibly important in order for us to thrive. And religion can provide all of these things. And most religions can provide these things very well. A lot of religions do a great job, especially at building community. And honestly, people from all different religions report similar experiences after conversion. Experience of spiritual transcendence, of new purpose, of joy, of connectedness. But I don't believe that there's anything spiritual at work there or supernatural. I believe that it's what's happening is perfectly normal and explained by, naturalistic means. I believe that joining a community that you meet with regularly, having a structure in your life that often encourages you to make healthy and moral choices, believing that you're connected with and a part of something bigger and more important than yourself, all play a huge factor in making religious people's lives better. And wherever these things are healthy and wholesome for people, I think that they should be celebrated and encouraged. However, there's no reason you can't replicate that without having to buy into a supernatural narrative about reality and without having to adopt beliefs that are demonstrably harmful to yourself and to other humans around you. So if you're in search of purpose, of faith, perhaps I would strongly encourage you to look into secular humanism as an option, or at least as a foundation to whatever you choose to go on to believe, and to make sure that you have at your foundation a desire for your fellow humans to thrive and a desire to lift them up. So with all that being said, I have to say that I'm very disappointed with young Don's conversion. He seems more concerned with what others shouldn't be doing versus what he should now be doing as a Christian. To me, biblical Christianity isn't about focusing on what others are doing, but about taking real, tangible action in the lives of those around you to make them better. Taking care of the poor, taking care of the oppressed. To me, this is where the beauty of Christ shines through. And I hope that young Don grows as a person and becomes a more positive influence on his audience.
I'm sorry if I stutter, yeah. My brain move a little faster than others, yeah. I even keep a close eye on my brothers, cause sometimes it's your blood that turn into blood suckers, yeah. And I'm on a big mission. My whole team got a plate up in the kitchen, yeah. I'm talking everything, I make all the fixings, yeah. They come a long way from where they come up missing. I blame it on my confidence, yeah. Promise I'm really just a star in the shit.